Hi, Michael William Denny of thundershamanism.com, thunderwizard.com, and asktheshaman.com. And today we're going to be talking about the value of worshiping the ancestors, and this is from the book Shamanism for White People, Reclaiming Our Animist Heritage. So this is going to be a really interesting subject, which I'm hoping will piss some people off again, because I know when I piss people off, I know I'm starting to get to the core of something and helping people come from places of extremism and coming back to the central core and getting an accurate understanding of it. So today we're going to be talking about honoring the ancestors and the place of ancestor worship in shamanism. So if you're not familiar with my work, go ahead and watch the other videos in this series. Go ahead and click on the links below. If you want to buy the book Shamanism for White People, Reclaiming Our Animist Heritage, click on the link below. You can get it on Amazon. Click on the other two links, thundershamanism.com, thunderwizard.com, if you want to see all my other DVDs and books and all the other things that I teach. And if you want to talk to me directly, if you want one-on-one instruction in shamanism, if you want a rune reading, if you want one-on-one counseling, whatever it is, click on asktheshaman.com, follow the directions, my phone will ring, you can talk to me. Okay, so the importance of ancestor veneration in shamanism. This is absolutely essential. Now, what's important to understand is that in order to get the power from the ancestors, there has to be a continual connection from lineage to lineage, from teacher to student, from father to son, from mother to daughter, whatever it is. There has to be a continuous connection. Now, if I were to go and train with a Taoist master, and I wanted to learn the mastery of certain energy practices, which I've done, you have to train with somebody who's been trained by somebody. And you have to not only be introduced to the celestial masters of that tradition, but you need to get an infusion of power from them. That is usually something done by the hands of the person that you're learning under. Maybe it's just done because you're connecting with them. I mean, you don't have to be in physical connection, but sometimes it helps, having them touch you in some way, or, some kind of a ritual. But something has to be done where the ancestors are invited in and they bring you into that tradition. And you are now part of that lineage. So it's important to understand that being connected to an ancestor doesn't necessarily mean that they're your ethnic ancestor, because you have to go through an initiation. Now, in all cultures, especially all traditional tribal shamanic cultures, men had to go through this. Women had to go through theirs, but men had to go through, the rite of becoming a hunter or a warrior in that tradition. And in the Germanic tribal tradition, it was the same. Tacitus is very clear. He says that until the male child had proven himself in some way, either in battle or in some other way, he was not considered part of the tribe. He was considered just like, they had, if they had servants or if they had, whatever it was, he was just part of that. And what he had to prove himself before he could be given the title of, part of the family. So that's extremely important. We have energetic and spiritual ancestry, which we have to acknowledge. And so that's why it's important when you're training in any tradition, whether it's shamanism or whatever it is, you have to be working with the teacher, because the teacher is your connection to the ancestors of that particular tradition. And the teacher is going to be the one that's going to introduce you to the ancestors. It's very traditional. So, there are some people who can go out in the wilderness and, the universe will teach them and they don't need any instruction, but it's really very few and far between. Now, why is this important? The reason why that's important is because we live in a society of people who, when they want to practice shamanism, because there's very few real shamans out there, they go off by themselves and they start trying to make things up. They start trying to practice Native American shamanism or whatever the heck it is. And, you end up stuck in your head. That's the problem. When you practice by yourself, you end up stuck in your head. And in my experience, the biggest drawback in Western spiritual practice, and that includes Western magic in some ways, is that it's very intellectual. This is a holdover from Christianity, because Christianity, if you remember from the previous videos, sought to separate us from our bodies and our energy to the earth. And it got us stuck in our head. I mean, the way that you become a Christian is that you accept the idea that Jesus is Lord, died on the cross for your sins, and you have to accept him and believe him. This is all an intellectual process. And so Westerners have been stuck in their head for, 1,000, 2,000 years. If you want to learn how to get connected on an energetic level, it's very helpful to find a teacher. This was definitely true for me. I had to go through a huge learning training period before I could get my head out of the intellectualism of Christianity and learn a real shamanic connection. I had to be taught that. Now let's talk about the physical, the genetic connection to the ancestors. This is also very important. Now, I am not a racialist. I'm not an exclusionist. I'm not a folkish heathen. I don't care what your background is. You can practice whatever you want. You want to learn from me, I'll teach you anything and everything that I know, whether that be European or Taoist. I don't care. I'll teach you whatever you want to know. So I'm not coming from a place of any kind of racial exclusion. Having said that, I can tell you that my experience was that I didn't feel a complete connection on a spiritual level until I reconnected with the gods of my ancestors. And I write about that. At first I thought I was Celtic, and I actually found out that that was wrong, and it made sense because I had tried Celtic practices, Druidism, and it never connected. I did great with African and Chinese and East Indian, but I couldn't get the Celtic thing, so I forgot about it. But I came to find out that I'm actually of Germanic origin. I'm descended from Vikings and from Anglo-Saxons, and so once I started reading the Norse myths, boom, I could feel my DNA just exploding inside of me. And I took all my understanding that I had learned in these other traditions, which helped me understand the myths of my ancestors, which, by the way, unless you've trained in a real shamanic tradition, you're probably not going to understand the messages that are encoded within those myths. Once I was able to go in and look at those myths and start incorporating that into my practices, which are spelled out in those myths, boom, my DNA awoke. And I now understand why it's so important to have a connection to your ethnic background. So, we get into this part of, racial exclusionism within Ancestral, and, it's tough for me. It's because you got to walk a fine line. And I've come to the conclusion that the racialists, they have to go through that. Because, like little kids, little infants, they can only handle so much. And it is important. You got to connect to your ethnic ancestors. If you're called to do that, you got to do it. They'll get over the racialist part of it. They'll get over the exclusionist part of it. It may take, a few generations or before that happens, but they got to do it. So I'm not going to fight with the racialists anymore. I don't agree with them, but I'm going to support them as long as they don't do anything, harmful to anybody else. If they want to be racially exclusive, if that's what's going to help them connect to their ancestors and eventually get them to the places where I think that Ancestral wants to go, let them do that. For those of you like me, if you don't have that problem connecting with other people and other ethnicities, then so much the better, because now you can use that understanding that you've learned in whatever other practice you've done, and then take it and go back to the myths, and you'll see it'll connect you to your ancestors more fully and more powerfully. And I've found out that the ancestors really do respond. And it's important because we need to stay connected to them. Why? Because they have hundreds of thousands of years of energy, of power that they've learned. This is the thing of why a tradition is important, because every generation of a tradition gains power and gains knowledge, and then we hold on to that and we combine that with the power of our previous ancestors, and then we give that to the next generation. It's very important. But we have to heal that rift between modern Europeans especially and our animist ancestors from 1,000, 2,000 years ago. There's a big gap in there where there's a lot of spiritual pain and damage that we need to heal. But once we get those bonds connected again, the power is unbelievable. So anyway, I go on and on and on and on and on, but I won't. If you're more interested in learning more about it, you can click on the links below. If you want to buy the book, there's a link to Amazon, which will get you the book. Shamanism for White People, Reclaiming Our Animist Heritage. You can click on thundershamanism.com, thunderwizard.com to see all of my books and DVDs. And if you want to talk to me directly, if you want personal instruction in shamanism, if you want a personal rune reading, if you have any questions for me, you can click on asktheshaman.com and click on the button, follow the directions, and you can talk to me directly. So now we're going to get into some deeper, some more fun stuff in the book. So I look forward to sharing that with you.